that ass back like a boom, 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 boom.
Hi folks, how we all doing? Bit of an impromptu put together this evening. Wasn't really that I had anything planned, but it's been such an exciting, well, exciting and momentous few days in horse racing in particular. I just decided I better put something together. Plus the fact that it's actually a decent way of keeping some content flowing at a time when, realistically speaking, there's not a whole pile going on in the sporting world, but the last 24 hours alone has more than made up for that on the horse racing front. Before I get on to talk about today's remarkable results at Faryhouse and Cork, I just have to drop back a bit first of all because obviously late yesterday evening came the announcement of Richard Johnson's retirement from the saddle, but I'll get back to that in due course. The first thing I want to do is to give a quick mention to something which had actually broken about a week or 10 days ago, but for whatever reason I had missed it, and that is the retirement of Tom Taff from the training ranks. Tom, of course, as we know, would be best remembered, I suppose, for his training of Kicking King to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup of 1995 under Barry Geraghty. He also had some big successes with other horses like Finger on the Pulse, 90th Minute, Finger on the Pulse, 90th Minute. I remember Emotional Moment, of course, was another good one, and Glen Finn Captain was one which, for whatever reason, just stuck in my head today. But what a lot of people mightn't realise is that I actually had a bit of a personal connection with Tom back about 10 years ago now, when my dad's best friend, the late Oliver Cunningham, retired Undertaker, he started with two horses with him actually. He started with Eurobuster and Spruce Cottage. But you know, no man can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and the bottom line of it was that Eurobuster was never really up to much, but Spruce genuinely looked like a horse that could have gone God knows where in racing terms, but as is always the case with a really good one, it never usually works out in reality as good as what it looks on paper. Now, at the time, as well as the couple of horses in training, uh, Ollie, and I have a slight suspicion the, se- the senior man in this part of the world may have been, uh, excuse me, may have been in on operations as well, but as well as the couple in training, there were younger unbroken horses, and there was an air and few different things knocking around. So I suppose to a certain extent, I would have taken on a sort of role as racing manager, if you want to call it that, whereby you see, Ollie, God bless him, and may he, Lord rest him. He was very much hard of hearing, so when it came to dealing with trainers and at the races and whatnot, that was generally where yours truly came in as go between, shall we say, and I suppose all told we were knocking around with Tom Taft for the best part of 3 years, I suppose, at the time. Now, unfortunately, as I said, the horse never really got to where we thought it might have got, but there were great days, and even if I never get back near owning a racehorse again, it's something that I will never forget, and something for which my life will always be the better of. Now, I would have to say that through any dealings I ever had with him, I found Tom to be an absolute gentleman and very shrewd operator. You don't win the big races in the game that he did without being fairly savvy. Um, I remember one occasion in particular, and believe it or not, it was actually on an Easter Sunday, as we are at the moment, and Spruce Cottage was to run in the first maiden hurdle, the first race on the card, which was a maiden hurdle, today's equivalent of which was won by the Willie Mullins trained Albara, but Spruce ran in the first race that particular day. He finished fifth, which on the face of it wasn't a bad run by any means, given the quality of some of the horses that were in the race on the day. But I something just came back to me yesterday when I had heard of Tom's retirement from the training ranks after the race that day. Now, it being Easter Sunday, whether we'd a runner or we hadn't a runner, I would have been in Faryhouse come hell or high water, because I always go traditionally on the Easter Sunday and the Tuesday, as it was now. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, which I must ask Faryhouse manager Peter Rowe the next time I'm talking to him why they have gone back to the Saturday, Sunday, Monday format for the 3 day meeting. But anyway, this particular day, the Sunday, was the first day, and while Dad and Ollie headed off after 2 or 3 races, obviously there was no way I was going that quick, but before the two senior citizens of the travelling party departed for the evening, I remember distinctly Ollie giving Tom's two young lads who were only about 6 and 8, I think, if that at the time, Pat and Alex. I know he gave both of them a fistful of sweets, and it just came back to me yesterday on hearing of Tom's retirement. When you see young Pat and the fine young man he has developed into, and not only a fine young man but a very talented young writer who has uh, mostly been making great strides with no need and riding old bumper horses, but um, apart from that, even I noticed today now that he rode a winner for Charles O'Brien, and when you see a young lad starting to get what we'll call outside rides, as in rides from a yard other than the one he's attached to, it will give you a fairly good indication of um, where exactly he is held in what would you say, in ranking terms by his peers, and indeed I suppose the um, trainers and whatnot. So while I'm very very sad to see Tom departing the training scene, I would hope and expect, as he has already sort of indicated, that he will remain in racing in some form or other, and it would be only right that the Taft name would remain prominent and heavily involved in the racing industry. It definitely does mark the end of an era to some extent to see Tom bowing out of contention. I can't overly say I'm completely shocked by his decision to call time, because I think economic circumstances, even before COVID-19 hit the world, were putting a lot of strain on a lot of people within the industry to keep going. But um, but it is obviously the end of an era to see a trainer with such a decorated resume by bowing out, but at least thanks to Pat making a rise through the ranks, the Taft name will be maintained within the racing community for hopefully long and many years to come. Tom, on a personal level, I'd just like to thank you for those days a decade or so ago. I've no doubt yourself and Elaine are extremely proud of where the young man has got himself to in his career to date, and rightly so. I've no doubt you will still be in and around racing, and I look forward to hopefully bumping into you at some stage, somewhere along the way. Speaking of decorated people bowing out of the racing scene, they don't come much higher in that regard at the moment than Richard Johnson. So, look, it might seem strange for a man of 44, 43 or 4, I think it is, uh, to say that you're surprised to see him bowing out, but I think most people with any uh, interest in or knowledge of the sport were caught a little bit on the hop by Dickie Johnson's decision to call time on his illustrious career yesterday evening. Now, an illustrious career it undoubtedly was, and I would be honest enough to say that I suppose for a lot of his career, I wasn't possibly as attuned to his achievements as the game as maybe should have been the case, and that was purely down to uh, being more a devotee of a certain Mr. McCoy from County Antrim. And I think perhaps to a certain degree it was just a pity that, it was because of AP and, the absolute freak of brilliance that he was, that maybe Dickie Johnson didn't get all of the uh, credit or acclaim that he might have deserved long before Tony retired. Now, I think, well, I know for a fact Tony was champion jockey 20 times, and I have a feeling, and if anyone needs to correct me on this, please do so in the comment section below. But I have a feeling that Dickie Johnson was actually second to Tony in the Jockeys Championship for all of those 20 years, which in itself is a truly remarkable feat, and one which was openly acknowledged by the great man from Moneyglass in County Antrim when paying tribute to his departing former adversary last night. Like, I always think, going back to Gaelic football here in Ireland, that the great Meath and Dublin teams of the late 80s and early 1990s each brought the best out of each other, and that was undoubtedly the case with AP McCoy and Dickey. But it was indeed fitting to see Dickey win his own batch of Jockeys Championships after AP had eventually hung up the saddle. And as I say, to a certain degree, his abdication at this stage of at this stage of the affair has certainly caught me off guard, and I imagine I am not the only one by any means who would fall into that bracket. I suppose just since I heard the news of his retirement last night, I suppose the one thing that came into my head fastest was a pondering as to who Philip Hobbs will uh, put in the box seat, as it were, to take over from Dicky. Now, I do know that for as long as I can recall, anyway, Tom O'Brien has been understudy in chief uh, to Richard within the Hobbs operation. Now, I would imagine that the natural order of things will decree that Tom, I would assume, will take over as stable jockey to Philip Hobbs. Now, were that not to be the case, and the only reason I'm floating this idea is that I honestly don't know. And again, if anyone can advise, please mention below in the comments. But I honestly don't know what age Tom O'Brien is, or whether he would be in a position to go as number one jockey to Philip Hobbs. But in view of the fact that he's understudy, or has been understudy to Richard for a long time now, he would certainly look to be the obvious one to step into the extremely large pair of boots to fill. But whoever steps in to take that job, no more than well, I suppose from the time Barry Geraghty retired. To be fair, JP sort of didn't appoint a retained rider, although in the UK, Aidan Coleman and young John Joe O'Neill seem to be splitting the riding duties between them. But as regards the Philip Hobbs job, I think if it was a thing that Tom O'Brien wasn't the chosen one, I suppose the one, I won't say fear, but I think it's always disappointing to see our best sport and talent going overseas, no matter what discipline it happens to be in. But I suppose if Tom O'Brien doesn't take the top job and Philip Hobbs was the one thing I would be slightly disappointed to see would be some of the best young riding talent in the game maybe being fished to go over to England. But look, so that was the end, absolutely the end of 2 years, coming within about a week of each other. But to just, I suppose, finish up the racing part in this ramble anyway. It was actually great to see two, what would we say, two reversals of retirement, shall we call it, paying off. First and foremost was fantastic to see County Wexford. Just hold on, Ned. County Wexford trainer Colin Murphy back among the winners now. Of course, Colin Murphy, I suppose, 20 years ago now, or a bit more, along with it, looked to be one of the brightest and most up and coming prospects within the training ranks when one thinks back to horses such as Big Zeb, Bowler, Le Vedette, Brave Inca, of course, I suppose the horse that really uh, launched his career when winning initially most of his races under Barry Cash before none other than Tony McCoy, who was mentioned elsewhere in this episode. Of course, somehow managed to lift him over the line and win a champion hurdle on him. But I suppose there were two sort of factors at play in bringing about what looked like the demise of Colin Murphy's training career, even though it didn't actually turn out to be as such, as we now know that he has come back into the training ranks, but back, I suppose, a decade ago, or perhaps a little bit less than that, Michael O'Leary and Eddie did stop supplying Murphy with Jigginstown House stock, and of course, as we know, that was also what led to Sandra Hughes ultimately handing in her license, or not not renewing her license, I suppose you would say. But you know, in both cases, they were much too talented of people to be lost to the industry, and it's absolutely brilliant to see Colin back among the training ranks. And who knows, maybe someday Sandra Hughes might get back in on the act as well. But certainly, I suppose it was around this time last year, from what I can remember, that Colin began to have a few runners on the track again, and I suppose at one stage I was sort of thinking, had he sort of, maybe made a mistake by coming back, because it surely had to enter his head when you think that he had been about a year back there, or could be more, I can't exactly remember, but there was no sign of a winner coming. Now, that is not to say that he had a number of horses which had ran well since he renewed his license. Ultimately, Botani, the horse that did give him his first winner back yesterday, had been placed a couple of times now. That was actually a very interesting scenario, in that the owners, Paul and Fiona McKeown, actually took that horse out of Willie Mullins' yard, where they also owned Relegate, which won the Cheltenham Bumper a couple of years back under Katie Walsh, and that mare went to Colin Murphy's yard as well. But there's not many horses leave Willie Mullins' yard and notionally at least improve, but Botani eventually got a deserved success yesterday under Colin, for Colin Murphy under Brian Hayes, and you would hope that um, such an occurrence would, in fact, be something of a launch pad for Colin to, maybe attract some new owners into the yard or build numbers back up because, as I said, owing to the achievements of horses like Big Zeb and Brave Inca and Vola La Vedette, I mean, the man has proven time and again that he can, in fact, produce them at the highest level, and I would hope and expect that the next development you will see with regard to Column's resurgence will be hopefully a horse or two in the green and gold hoop jacket with the white cap. Now, speaking of Mr. McManus's very famous colours, leads me nicely along to the next thing I wanted to touch on, which is actually a horse in a very rare situation, a horse leaving JP's colours, that being Josie's Orders, who um, became something of a legend in the cross country sphere due to the partnership none other than Nina Carberry struck up with the horse, and it was thought to be very fitting and rightly so that Nina actually retired a couple of years back after winning on Josie's in the cross country at Punchestown, a facet of the sport which, as many of you will know, and the Bulger has specialised in for many, many years. But to see one not only leave JP's colours, but also go off at 100 to 1 when one is aware of the back class that Josie's Orders obviously possess. Now, of course, one must bear in mind that the horse is 13 now and had been campaigning mostly exclusively and with great success over the cross country course. But to see a horse with such back class go off at 100 to 1 yesterday was not only strange but perhaps a shade insulting as well when one thinks of what the horse achieved not all that long ago. And you'd have to think that if the teenager was still running in the silks of his original owner, that there's no way it would have been allowed to go off at those odds. Now, uh, as it emerged after the race, which he sensationally won under the hitherto unheralded Philomena Elvin, um, JP had in fact more or less given the horse to Enda Bulger as a present, hence why the old timer ran in Enda's own colours, because he said when he was interviewed after the amazing performance that JP had given him the horse uh, so that Enda's kids could trick around on it and get used to so Enda's kids could get used to riding out and that, because when a horse gets to that age and has that much experience under his belt, he's bound to be a fairly safe conveyance for a young rider, or for anyone indeed. But whatever about the sentimental side of things, there's absolutely no doubt that the old horse, he still has a little bit of diesel left in the tank yet, and I know Enda actually paid glowing tribute to the winning rider, who Philomena Elvin, who leaves County Wicklow at 4:30 in the morning, 3 mornings a week, to go down to Howardstown and ride out. So it was only both right and fitting that she got the opportunity to partner the great old horse in a race. And it's funny, and it said that he admitted that, of course, the race in Cork yesterday was being used as a prep for one more crack at the cross country course during the Punchestown Festival in a couple of weeks' time, and that he had said to Philomena Elvin before she went out that he would give her a fiver for every horse she passed uh, during the contest now. So whatever prize money he got, I think he's going to have to hand over a chunk of it. But it was just one of those great stories that only National Hunt Racing can throw up. An unheralded but obviously very talented rider, and an old horse that a lot of people, myself included, very much, that people would not only be very familiar with, but that would also have earned nearly a place in people's hearts at this stage. So to see a story like what unfolded in Cork yesterday was nothing short of amazing. They said it was the horse's first win over hurdles. I'm not sure if it was since 2016 or 2018, but it was a truly, truly amazing story, and still it wasn't major story of the day, I suppose you might say, because that would have to go to the John Shark Hanlon trained Sky Ace, who continued an absolutely remarkable and, in some senses, unbelievable career resurgence when landing the Grade 1 hurdle on yesterday's card at Faryhouse. Now, earlier on, when commenting on Colin Murphy's return on that, I did mention that it was very seldom that horses left Willie Mullins unimproved, but if ever there was a story to debunk that theory, it was absolutely that of Sky Ace, who was bought by the Shark at the sales for no more than €800. Yes, you did hear that right. €800. And I believe the only time he has lost since joining the Shark was at the Cheltenham Festival, or she rather, not he. But like every time I think back to last November when the horse ran in what used to be the WKD hurdle at Down Royal's big meeting of the season. Now I'm not sure what it's called now, but even at that stage, the pundits and commentators, and completely understandably and justifiably so, were saying that having clocked up a few victories during the summer, that surely the horse had reached the ceiling of its ability at that stage, but not a bit of it. It toughed it out that day under Brian Cooper, I think it was. It then went Faryhouse and won, then went to Leopardstown at Christmas, as far as I can recall, and won. So, again, just one of these remarkable stories that jump racing can throw up. And, it was great, as was to be proved after the day. It was the start of actually a Grade 1 double on the day for jockey Jody McGarvey. Now, the second bit of which was aboard the Willie Mullins train Jedanley in the big novice chase on Sunday's card. But between the jigs and the reels, it was great to see the shark back with a really big time winner and a really top horse, capable of competing at the highest level. I mean, again, you talk about the like of Colin Murphy, being able to compete at the highest level. Shark Hanlon deserves every bit as much acclaim when one thinks of horses like Hidden Cyclone and Luska Lad, to name but two. And, even if Sky Ace were never to win another race again, the animal has more than done enough for the careers of the couple of jockeys that have ridden the animal since it left Mullins's. Then there was and it was an unbelievably uh, well timed and fitting timed boost for the shark, because look, every yard, no matter what size you might be or how many horses you have or whatever it is, every yard needs that one standout horse which can catapult a trainer and or a rider into the big time. And as I've said, the Shark had them previously with Luskilad and Hidden Cyclone and Darren Jan, which had won a couple of times around Galway. And indeed, there was another horse, the name of which just escapes me at the minute, that won 3 times in Galway over the space of the big week down there a couple of years back. But it was great to see Big John back with a horse which will no doubt be a massive boost to his operation and to Jody McGarvey's. It was probably, in fact, uh, symbolic of what a win like that, and indeed the second win on Willie Mullins' Jadani, can do for a rider's career prospects, when you think that Philip Hobbs recruited McGarvey to ride his representative. Jerry's back in the Grand National. Now, the horse didn't end up anywhere, but Philip Hobbs is one of the top trainers within racing anywhere, and that he would. Now, I'm sure Frank Perry and the boss man would have had some input here as well, but it was absolutely a, a glowing endorsement for Johnny McGarvey's talents, that somebody like Philip Hobbs would turn to him to partner his representative in the Irish National today. Just finally, for this one, I suppose it would have to be mentioned that American trainer Kerry Bryan did eventually get off the mark, taking the bumper in Cork yesterday at pretty much untouched 25-1. Now, I will admit that I honestly don't know a whole lot about the lady from the US, other than that she had a small team of horses over in Ireland for the winter, warming up, I suppose, as it were, for the jump season back home for them, which is only actually getting underway. And a lot of our horses actually ran very well, and she'd been knocking on the door for a winner for a long time, so it was just nice to see her getting one off the mark uh, before she headed back. In fact, I think she may have headed back today, for all I know. But it'll just tell you what is thought of Irish racing when taken in conjunction with the fact that more and more leading owners from the UK and abroad are sending horses to be trained in Ireland, and it's a great endorsement for Irish racing to see these people coming in, and it's only bound to encourage them when they actually come in and do well. Um, you know, in case anyone is wondering, no, I have not forgotten about Dermot McLaughlin's outstanding success in training Free Will and Dylan to win the big one at Faryhouse and the big one in Irish jump racing for the year at an astounding price of 150 to 1. Certainly in my lifetime, I can never remember coming across a 150 to 1 winner. No, I did not have a bean on it. I actually had backed and tipped up Run Wild Fred, which gave me a great run for my money, finished second. But I you know, it's I would have loose-ish uh, connections to the Dermot McLaughlin yard in that his cousin Shane McLaughlin actually works in our local butchers, which is owned by another local horse owner, Pat Mackin, and ran by David McFall. So I've absolutely no doubt they'll be picking the meat out of this big win for quite a bit to come. But no more than Colin Murphy or the Shark, as we mentioned earlier on. Hopefully now it can launch Dermot's career to yet another level. Now I know he said in the aftermath of the race that he was quite happy to stick with the numbers of horses that he has, but then everyone was going to say that in the immediate aftermath. But there's no doubting his pedigree within racing. After all, his father, Liam McLaughlin, God be good to him, was the first man to win on Arkle, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll not get a much better grounding than that. And he, as I say, I know in the immediate aftermath of the race, he had said that he'd be quite happy to maintain numbers at his current levels. But look, he is going to deservedly attract the attention of some of the bigger owners in the game now, and one would love to see his undoubted skill at his job being rewarded. Now, just to reassure the lads in the butcher shop, and indeed Dermot's many relations and friends around Dunboyne and much further afield, that I will in fact be writing a much more detailed piece which will go up on the site either tonight or tomorrow in relation to his absolutely outstanding success today and another feather in the cap of the burgeoning career of rider Ricky Doyle as well. But I just decided I'd finish off on that note with this particular post. So please keep an eye out for a bit about Dermot's great success either tonight or later on. I would just like to finish off by saying I've been absolutely overwhelmed by the numbers of visitors the site has been getting in recent days. Please keep it up. Your support and interest is what keeps me motivated to uh, continue doing the work, and I would hope that I will be able to repay your faith in me by uh, continuing to produce content of the highest standard I can and to the best of my ability. As look, I don't see it as a job, it's a labor of love and possibly the greatest form of therapy any man in my position could have. But I will just before I sign off, just a reminder again, please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel if you're not a subscriber already, and also check us out on all the social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And there'll always be something of some description going on in one or perhaps all of the sites. But look, we'll try and keep it as fresh and updated as we can. As I said, there will be a bit about Dermot McLaughlin's grave when either tonight or at some stage tomorrow. Weekly quiz will hopefully be out tomorrow as well, and I then there could be a bit of farm work, or you wouldn't know what else we get up to. But thank you again for your continued support, and please stay tuned because there's much more to come from where this is came.